Okay, it's 2:00. Let's call the meeting to order. Item number 2, committee or public comments. Do we have any public comments? Okay, was there no public comments calling in? Okay, good. Okay, we'll move to item 3, Indian Wells Valley Groundwater Authority. Stan?
Thank you. We have not had a groundwater authority meeting since the board last met. That is, since our board last met. So I'm going to be very brief in terms of just hitting the very highlights. And in terms of any financial activity, the 2020 audit is still not gone before the board, and now it's been 15 months. Our general manager is now saying that the auditor has all the data, and so now the holdup is the auditor, not the GA. Going on to activities, project activities, the annual report for 2021 is due April 1st, which is tomorrow, I believe. The GA board did receive a draft to review for the last meeting on February 9th, I believe. There were many holes in that document. Essentially, the report's incomplete. Some of the holes are fixable and some of the holes aren't fixable. The biggest hole pertains to the groundwater and storage update. Recent data from the 2019 report indicated that the loss in water and storage is a whole lot less than stated in GSP. So we have lost some critical data and information. Turns out we needed to measure 41 wells in order to get that information, and this is the second year in a row that we've failed to measure that. The 2021 annual report was not available to the board on the March 9th meeting, and that's the third year in a row that the board did not approve or discuss the report before releasing it to DWR. It has to be released today or tomorrow, and obviously it's, I don't even know what the status is. I'm assuming it's done or very, very near to being done because it has to be sent in tomorrow, but the board won't see it before it's sent in. And I think our board has previously agreed to change the process, if we can, of how that annual report is released. And I will be pursuing that at the future board meetings. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Stan. Any public comments on that, on Stan's report? Okay, moving forward to item 4, brackish water study.
Okay, not much to report, just some administrative actions in the last month. The fourth invoice, which covers the fourth quarter of 2021, in the amount of $61,785.69 after retention, was submitted to DWR on March 1st. The status report for the period from June to December of 2021 was also submitted on the same day. The report includes details on the potential treatment train and a draft of the estimated costs that were discussed during the January 27th brackish study group meeting. Wade Major, who's with Aqualogic, also submitted an invoice for their work since May 29th in the amount of $71,089.49, and that's to be paid from the brackish group account containing the member contributions. There's a second invoice for work completed in January related to the pilot plant conceptual design, and that was provided on March 9th in the amount of $13,634.43. The DWR grant manager did have a few questions regarding the fourth invoice package, which she shared in a call with Wade Major. All those questions were resolved and the revised package was submitted on March 11th.
Thank you. Any public comments on the brackish water study? Okay, we'll move to 5, alternate water sources.
Okay, that's primarily the report on the El Paso subbasin. So after review of the available seismic data in the El Paso subbasin area, we have acquired 59 of the available 88 miles from SEI, which is the seismic line wholesaler, and that was at a cost of $100,515.90. SEI has transferred the 1982 data to Collier directly. John Jansen, who's with Collier, is tasked with interpreting the data after the reprocessing. However, upon importing the data into the seismic interpretation software, John determined additional reprocessing of the 1988 lines is needed due to positional errors that were causing stretching and distortion of the data. In order to ensure the quality of the data to be used for the hydrological conceptual framework update, it was recommended that we acquire about 40 miles of the 1988 seismic data at a cost of $500 a mile. Columbia, which works with Collier, has substantially completed their processing on the first set of seismic data that was initially authorized, and from what they've shared with John, he reports that they look to be significantly improved. They started on the second set of lines, and John expects them to be completed within 2 weeks, and then he'll start his interpretation as soon as the reprocessing is complete. Again, at the January 19th board workshop, the board did authorize up to $200,000 to obtain and reprocess the additional remote sensing seismic data that was collected during the 1980s within this El Paso subbasin area, and to update the hydrological conceptual framework. So even with the additional $20,000 for this additional 40 miles, we're still at a total cost of $173,223.30. So I don't anticipate any more costs, so we're under budget. And completion of this work is necessary to complete the groundwater storage study that Ramble is doing with Tim Parker. And I know Tim's on the line, so Tim, if you have anything you want to add to what's going on with the project, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. No, we're just waiting for that seismic data. Can you hear me okay?
We can, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, we're just waiting for the reprocessed seismic data, and that'll give us basically the bottom of the basin and some sedimentary structural features, as well as some faults, and that'll really help because we have very little well data over in that area. It'll really help us with that area, unlike the China Lake Ridgecrest sub-area of the basin where there's some wells that went down to bedrock, and we've already reprocessed some seismic data over there, and there's been a lot more work done over in that part of the basin. So this is really going to help, put the bottom on the basin and help us with determining how much porous rocks there are, or porous sediments there are on the basin, to come up with a storage estimate. One clarification, Don, is that the money that was originally designated to purchase the lines, I think, was around $100,000, and the additional money is actually just for reprocessing the 1988 lines. We already purchased them, so the additional money is just for the reprocessing, because as you correctly noted, there were some curves and disconnects in lines. So that's what that additional cost is for.
Okay, the total is still the $173,000, so we are under budget on that.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that's right. The money's not, the cost isn't changing. It's just a clarification on we were hoping that those 1988 lines, we wouldn't have to reprocess because they're a little newer, but it turns out they do, and it's just going to give us a better product anyway.
Okay. Thank you, Tim. Stan, you have some questions?
Yeah, is any of this reprocessed data north of the El Paso sub-area?
No, the work we're doing right now is not.
Okay.
Tim, wasn't there one line that went kind of from southwest to northeast that?
Oh, yeah, you're right. We included, 92-01, the line from the naval the original work that the Navy did. So that was included because that actually connects the older non-Navy seismic lines in the El Paso area, or El Paso sub-area, with the lines over in the China Lake Ridgecrest area. So that, and in fact, that was something that I suggested, so I'm surprised I didn't comment on that right away. But yes, so we have a line that goes over the ridge there into the China Lake area from the El Paso sub-area.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Any other discussion? Any public comments? Okay, we'll move to 6, pumping optimization grant.
Yeah, so that's one of the reasons Tim is on the line. I had talked to Tim and asked him to call into this meeting to give his ideas on grant money that might be available, as well as trying to maybe expand the scope of a pumping optimization project. And he's got some ideas which I asked him to share. So Tim.
Tim, thank you.
Sure. So, you know, the pumping optimization was the term that's used in the groundwater sustainability plan, right? It's one of the project management options. And so that option originally, what's in the writing in the plan is that it's to look at moving some of the pumping north in the northwestern part of the basin up there along Brown Road, I think is as it's described in the groundwater sustainability plan. And then what that kind of, as I recall, there was some information that came out from the Groundwater Authority also expanding that over to the El Paso sub-area. And, you know, so, which really looks a lot like the exploration that we're talking about in the El Paso area. So I think this idea of pumping optimization does have a sort of a fit over in the El Paso area. It'll be somewhat costly because of the conveyance. You know, pipelines are expensive, and you'd have to get the water over into the main part of the basin in order to use it. But as we're looking at this El Paso area, it makes sense if we're drilling wells to also explore the opportunities for recharge in that area. And since there's going to be a pipeline, and there's still talk of and planning going on for imported water, it makes sense to think about recharge there as well. And whether that is direct recharge into the aquifer using wells, so they call that the term for that is aquifer storage and recovery, or that that would make sense to also look at whether or not surface infiltration may make sense. When we did the AEM work over there, we did find just a few areas where it looked like there were some fairly coarse sediments. That would need to be explored further through drilling and perhaps even some shallow methods, some additional surface geophysics could be useful to look at that, as well as just getting a backhoe out and looking a little deeper in those shallow soils to see what they look like. There's a lot of clay out there, admittedly, you know, but there may be a few coarse areas, whether it's somewhat buried by clay sediments, especially coming off the major drainages, where you could find some coarse areas. And one of those areas was near the LA Aqueduct. So I think it's worth considering how to make that kind of an effort multi-benefit instead of just looking at optimizing pumping. So that's I guess the main point of it that I wanted to consider. And then I guess if there's any questions, or if you had any other thoughts you want me to explore, Don?
Now I leave it to the committee here if they have questions.
This is Chuck. I was just curious, what would we need to do to pursue any grants that were out there, Tim? Is there some available right now?
In the fall or later in the year, there is going to be about $200 million
Okay.
in grant funding under the Sigma program. Now, there's also about 75 GSPs that went in, so it's going to be pretty competitive. There's a big budget surplus right now at the state, and there's talk of more funding being put forward for drought funding and other things. So there may be some other money coming out from the state. There may be some federal opportunities also through the infrastructure bill and the, what do they call it? The WISIP? No, it's there's a WIFIA. That's generally loans, but there's money available for managed aquifer recharge in particular under that program. So those are the two principal grant funds that I think may have some merit.
It seems to me that Capital Corps had identified some non-Sigma funding grant opportunities. I don't have the exact name at this point in time, but it seemed to me that there were some that Capital Corps had identified.
I believe mostly those are federal funds. if I'm
Oh,
not
it
mistaken.
could very well be,
Yeah.
but I guess I would prefer to look at non-Sigma funds so that we're not competing with the GA. I'd like to see if it can't be independent of the GA relative to that. I think it would be beneficial. And quite frankly, part of my motivation, or most of my motivation for hitting this so hard is if you start looking at the 2019 annual report, and then even the 2020 annual report where they actually did have data, that's the one area of the entire basin where water levels continue to uniformly increase. So notwithstanding, we need to understand what the aquifer looks like and all that. The fact that the water levels are consistently going up, I think, is a very positive indication. And that's why we really need to be looking at this.
Okay, so do we need any action on this as far as taking it to the board to pursue grants, or?
Well, I think for our board meeting, it'd just be more of a presentation like Tim did, informational, just to let the board know what's out there and what the thoughts are, because I think Tim's suggesting that the scope be expanded beyond just a pumping optimization. Or just to have that discussion with the board and maybe get some direction of where would you like to go with it.
Okay. Jim, do you have all of the Capital Corps documentation on the grant information? Do you know? I guess you don't know what you don't have. That would be kind of awkward.
Well, their reports are usually in the board packet, so.
Yeah, they're in
Tim
the
gets
board
the-
package.
Yeah, Tim would have those.
Okay.
Yeah, one other thing that I would suggest is really talking to DWR about their technical support services program, and
Right.
to explore, to do any kind of exploration, to get good data, you want to have a pumping well and a monitoring well, right? And DWR has money for monitoring wells. And they've only really given the basin one well. They've done more in other basins from what I can tell. And with the needs of this basin, with I won't go into the finances, but just the fact that there's more monitoring needed, especially in the El Paso sub area, I think we can make a good case for that. That case can come from the district, but it also needs to come from the groundwater authority, I think. But perhaps in the near future, we'll have an opportunity to talk in a kind of a forum where we can discuss that. But it really means writing up a sort of a case to make to DWR for that. And that could really help to move this program.
Okay, thank you.
Jim, would you expect that applications for funding from DWR would come from the Groundwater Authority rather than the Water District? It seems like they would be looking for the Groundwater Authority to make applications.
Yes, probably so. They're looking for GSAs to make them, but they can also, I think, accept from others. But still, both the GA and the member agencies need to support all submittals going in. You need to have mutual support. So, and DWR always looks at that as, do you have support from your partners in a basin?
Yeah, well, that's just, I kind of understand your concern, and that's one more reason to look at non-Sigma related funding. If we absolutely need to include the GA, then obviously we will. But in the meantime, if there are non-Sigma related grants, I think we need to pursue those, or investigate what they are, I guess, first of all.
No, I agree. Okay, any public comments? I don't think your mic is on. Is that mic on?
A green light. And I'm colorblind. My name is Sophia Merck, Sam. There are many different divisions under the DWR, and one of them is the Rural Water Association. And sometimes they have grants out there that are not Sigma, so you might look into that. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. Any other public comments?
I don't know if this will help, but there's a way to use old wells to measure flow by digging another well nearby. So if you find some old wells, like up at 9 Mile Canyon where the sawmill used to be, or maybe up farther north toward Olancha, I know there's some. And so just as an idea.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Any callers?
Sophia Merck. There is an old well where the sawmill used to be on 395 coming down from Kennedy Meadows. And in the past, it's you can even sound the water there. So thank you.
Thank you.
Could that be the well that's still in service?
I think it is still in service.
It's on the west side of the highway. There's a standpipe there if you look on,
No, that's the well for Granite. It would be on
Right.
the east side of the road.
okay,
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it's by where the wood used to be.
okay, got it.
Okay. We'll move to item 7, future agenda items.
None here.
Okay, and then 8, we will adjourn at 2:24. I didn't either.
All right.
Thank you, Tim.
All right. See you later.